will now call the December 4th, 2024 regular Historic Preservation Commission meeting to order. This meeting has been posted in accordance with Nevada open meeting law. All voting members are present, and we have a quorum. And for the record, our Historic Preservation meeting that was scheduled for 10:23 was vacated due to a lack of a quorum. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is the initial comment period. Public comment during this portion of the meeting must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. Each person has up to 3 minutes to speak on a specific agenda item. The public may call 702-589-9629 to provide comment. If there is anyone in the audience at this time who'd like to step forward to the podium, if so, please state your name for the record. Are there any written comments eventually? No? Okay. Thanks.
Hi, my name's Bryn Delormier. I'm a resident of the Historic District, and I came to speak on agenda item number 2, the Bureau of Reclamation Admin Building, the Xeriscape Garden. I know you're talking about the signage tonight, but since the representatives are here tonight, I just wanted to speak a little bit about the garden. I just came back from a walk there right before this meeting. And I had spoken before this commission back in August about the same thing. So sorry for the repeat, but I wanted the Bureau of Reclamation reps to hear this as well. As we know, the design as it was proposed to us a couple years ago didn't come out exactly as we had expected it to. I made a couple of notes about that, updated with what I had seen tonight, and as I've been walking through there since the project has been completed. So a bit of this is a repeat, I'm sorry for that. So we've noticed that, one, all the 1/4-inch irrigation tubing to the plants and trees are lacking the drip end irrigation valves that actually control the water and save us, they conserve water. Water just drips out after, while the plants are being irrigated and runs down the hill. It's still like that today. I just came back from there and walked through it. Some of the plants are missing the 1/4-inch tubing altogether, and a lot of those have died. A lot of them are brown and either dead or dying more and more each time I've walked up since it completed in July or August. The trees they planted there are pretty small. There aren't really enough. I think there are 8 benches there, and even with these trees, when they're fully grown, I think about half of the benches there won't actually be shaded by the trees, and somebody else will speak tonight as they have thermal images as to how hot the benches actually get in the midst of summer. And I noticed on my walk tonight that, I'm not sure why, but a bunch of those trees have actually, the multi-trunk ones, have split at their bases. So there are orange cones against one of them that are close to the walking path. A bunch of others have split at the base. I don't know if the trees lost enough limbs that they'll actually be able to survive, but they'll at least lose a lot of their limbs. So I just wanted to make note of that. The trees also lack mulch around their base, and so do most of the plants. The rocks are raked right up to them. So I had said back in August, they're just being baked by the heat of the rocks all summer long, and they still don't have mulch to this day. So all of those are pretty easy fixes. And then I had also said back in August, many of the plants, we appreciate the native plants, those are great, but a lot of them, like the barrel cacti, I have those in my own yard, they're very slow growing. It's great to have native drought tolerant plants, but there are also some that can be planted, and I see there are some up there, like the lantanas, that have bushed out a bit since. So it would be good to get more of those to really, those are also drought tolerant, but it would help to have more of those to really grow out the landscape there. Although we still like the barrel cacti and the native plants for sure. So I think the signage project will be really good to identify those. So I appreciate that they're taking steps to identify those. And I think what a lot of people here will have to say is the rock hills that were placed there, which weren't in the original landscape design, those do retain a lot of heat. I walked up there all throughout summer during the day. Even at night, it was still really hot compared to Wilbur Square right next door. Like even in the middle of the night, it's still really hot. Those rocks retain the heat from the sun. So you feel it just radiating even at midnight. So the rock hills that are there, I know they block the view of the actual building. When tourists come driving up Park Street, they don't really see the architecture of the building itself. They retain a lot of heat, as others will say. So we were hoping to have them flattened out before more landscaping is added, before the existing landscape bushes out a bit. Just have those flattened to where the building can be visible and show off our town's architecture. That's obviously, being the Historic Preservation Commission, that's one of our main buildings in town that we want to showcase. So, sorry, I'm used to the bell. All right, so thank you. Those are my comments. Thanks so much.
Madam Chair, we do have somebody on the line.
Go with that first, or
It's up to you.
Go
Just want to
for it.
make you aware.
All right.
Thank you so much. Commission, city staff, my name is Norma Valley. I have spoken about this topic before. So specifically regarding agenda number 2. I'm disheartened that the topic of agenda number 2 is about signage. I think signage is very important. I have a very dear friend. He's a graphic artist in New York City. He does signage and wayfinding for parks and the New York City subway, and it really makes a big difference on how something looks and presents and conveys information. So I'm happy we're going to be finding out about that tonight. But why I'm disheartened is because ain't no signs going to make that rock wall look any better. I mean, not to be disparaging at all to anybody specifically, but the ugly factor is not going to change because of the signs. And I'm also disheartened that we're not talking about ways that we're going to make it better, ways we're going to reduce this heat island effect that has been imposed upon us. We all know how hot, they have images that show, thermal images that show how much hotter it is there. There's no talk about more mature trees that are going to be coming in, or shade structures, or greenery, or anything that's going to reduce the surface temperature in that area. So while I am pleased that there is care being given to what the signs are going to look like, I think that the shift should really go on how we're going to make it more beautiful and cooler in the most precious part of our city, which is the historic district. Thank you.
Guess we'll take the phone call.
Public comment, go ahead.
Good evening. For the record, Fred Volz. Concerning your agenda item number 2, the Bureau of Reclamation's incomplete history lesson from its submitted materials and the proposed interpretive signage do not begin to cover issues with the xeriscape installed in the recent past. Initially, the Bureau had every intention of reinstalling water-gobbling ornamental turf and spent $600,000 of public money on this ludicrous design. That design was jettisoned after our elected officials were encouraged to question this folly in the middle of a multi-year drought and Lake Mead containing only 1/3 of its storage capacity. The redesign project and its poor implementation have led to almost immediate death of numerous planted items for lack of adequate drip irrigation, insufficient tree cover with the likes of Palo Verdes to provide shade, and plants, shrubs, and trees that are generally too small for the task. There is truly no point in worrying about adequate interpretive signage when dead plant and tree material needs to be removed and replaced with working irrigation and specimen plants and trees that will not take protracted time to become established. As for hewing to the original look of the reclamation building's landscape to respect our community's history, times have changed. When Nevada received its annual Colorado River 300,000 acre-feet water allocation in the 1930s, Clark County had only 30,000 residents. Fast forward 90 years, and there are roughly 2.3 million people in Clark County, yet the river's water flow has dramatically decreased, and Nevada's allocation will be further decreased based on pending negotiations occurring between the various river users. The Bureau should not, I repeat, not replant any of the removed turf to follow a historical practice that no longer makes sense when we had water to spare. Any signage requirements or initiatives need to be held in abeyance until the Bureau of Reclamation fixes the many dead and insufficiently sized plants, trees, and shrubs, as well as non-functioning drip irrigation. And I would ask that these comments be added to the record of the meeting verbatim. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, committee. Brandon Smith. I'm also a resident and homeowner here in the Historic District. As you guys have seen me repeatedly step up here and talk about this project from agenda item number 2 in regards to the poor implementation of the original design, along with continued just disregard for the historic character of our town, as well as thermally polluting our downtown area with this heat island that they've created with a giant sink and hundreds of tons of pure rock in the middle of town. I would like to mention the one and only meeting that I've had with the Bureau in person myself. They initially bragged about reconstituting some of the dirt and the rock that was removed from one side of the site and then piled it onto the other. They made a big deal out of the fact that, we made more land mass so that we could plant more trees, and the ground coverage was supposed to be something in the order of 85% or such number. And the mounds that everybody seems to have the most contention with are basically bare. They've sat there bare now for 6 months since the project was completed. The biggest plant on those mounds is no taller than my kneecap. And when I ask them why these mounds have to be there, again, they, after throwing away somewhere in the order of $5 million on this project, they felt compelled to save a few $1,000s by redepositing the rocks from one side of the site to the other, and then telling me that that the plants that they were planting on these mounds needed 30 feet of ground below them to live. Not only haven't they planted really anything on those mounds, but half of the plants that they have planted on the site are dead already. Trees have broken. The trees that have been split at the root have been sitting there for the better part of 6 weeks now, unattended to. I know they've been noticed. I was chastised the other day for walking the site with one of the representatives there, and I just don't get it. It baffles my mind that the same government entity that was responsible for building one of the 7 industrial wonders of the world at at a then cost of 10%. They spent 10% of what it cost to build the whole dam on this project, sitting right out front of the Bureau. I mean, I know that's not in today's dollars, but you get the point. And nobody seems to want to respond in any positive way about some sort of restitution plan or some mitigation plan, other than the fact that it's hideously ugly. And I will admit that it's getting less hideously ugly as things begin to grow. But the trees that you planted are going to take 2 decades to mature. There's not enough of them. They're never going to provide enough ground cover to mitigate the heat that the site itself is generating. As I've mentioned myself, my home is now 12 degrees hotter during the same days of the summer as they were last year. The houses that all surround the site are all in the same position. We've all had the same huge electricity bills to run our AC 24/7. And quite frankly, it just doesn't add up anymore. Like, you guys have to be responsible for this. You didn't keep in touch with the city. You've assassinated the character of our town. It's time to do something positive about it. Whatever that is, get the mounds out of there, cover the thing up with big trees that are going to survive, and let's do something about it. Otherwise, you guys are just going to end up with a class action lawsuit against you. It's just not fair what you've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Carroll. I live across the street from this monstrosity and also own a house in the district about a block away. When I first moved into town, one of the reasons I loved that spot more than anything is because looking outside my window, I could see dogs playing, people having picnics. It was beautiful, clean green Boulder City. And now it's a heat oven, brown ugliness that I look at every single day. I feel horrible. I mean, the house I own is a block away, but I feel horrible for these homeowners that own these houses directly across the street, because what they bought is definitely not what they have today. And them trying to sell that house now, I mean, who on earth is going to want to pay good money to look at that? We're forced to now. We had no choice. But nobody's going to voluntarily do that and dish out good money. These huge mounds that they're talking about, you can't see the building anymore. We used to have at least a dozen tour buses go by the house every single day. They'd stop in front of the house, and they'd go, okay, look, executive houses. But then they would all point to this beautiful greenery and this beautiful building, which is the top. I mean, Boulder City, we're this triangle, right? It's literally at the very top. It's the most important building, the most significant, the most beautiful, and they just literally don't even stop and look anymore. If they come by at all, they don't even come by, which is such a shame. We've got festivals across the street at the park. Every single major event, almost, most of them, is held at that park. And that's what now tourists have to look at. There's nothing to be proud of. It denigrates the city. It takes away from everything, not to mention, and what they were saying before, our electricity bill has gone up. So who's going to pay for that? Definitely not the city, definitely not the Bureau. Tell me how much the Bureau's electric bill has gone up. They're right there, it's their property, and they get all of it. Can you imagine a child or a senior citizen sitting at one of those benches that's 100+ degrees with no signage, no trees, no shades, no shade? That's a 3rd-degree burn in just minutes. It's ugly, it's horrible, it's heat. The people need to have their voices heard, and at some point, some level of the government, being municipal, city, state, federal, I don't care who's responsible, you have to listen to the people. Nobody's happy about it. It hurts all of us. It hurts Boulder City. This is one of the most beautiful cities on the planet, and now we've got this big pimple right at the top of it. Please make it go away. Please make those big mounds go away. Give us something green. There are so many ways to do it that are still they're still conserve water. Thank you. There are so many ways. If people there are smart people here that can think of some to do it. Do make it better without it costing a lot of money. But please listen to us. Please make a change. Just listen to the people in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else on the phone? No. Anybody else in the audience? All right. Thank you. Okay, so.
Hi, my name is Janice Stewart, and my husband and I have a home in Tuscany Village, Tuscany Retreat, so when we are in town, we take Nevada Way and we go past this all the time. So I was saying back there, I'm happy to see there is somebody else that doesn't like this. I was amazed as from the first time I saw the first sign that said this was infrastructure money by our current administration, but the road didn't look any better, or that it was going to be better. And my question is there any documentation as to what the costs for water and the amount of water that was used then versus now, and what it will be with the plants that were chosen? That's one question.
We can't answer questions. This is
Okay,
just an
I
opportunity for the
understand.
public to
Okay,
voice their opinions, so.
I ask if I can ask a question, so there's my question. Then also, I had another thought there, and because for lots of reasons, it's not there yet now. This is federal land, I understand, and would have been great if they could have just turned it over to make it a park. I understand that we're free to walk on it and use it if we could in times that's appropriately able for a human body to stand the temperature. But I heard someone here say that they were chastised for doing that, so that I don't understand. There's a lot of questions, and as I talk to people around town about it, a lot of them don't even know what I'm talking about. I don't understand that level of obliviation. So I wasn't planning to speak. I have a hard time being really quiet. So I guess I'm done for now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the audience? Speak now or forever hold your peace, or you can wait till the end of the meeting. All right, then, moving on to agenda item number 1, approval of the minutes of, what was that date? September 25th, 2024, it's right here, sorry. Do I have a motion for approval of those minutes?
I motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved unanimously. Moving on to agenda item number 2. For possible action, presentation by the Bureau of Reclamation regarding their proposed interpretive signage with xeriscape within the Xeriscape Garden for the administration building located at 1200 Park Street.
Good evening. My name is Vernon Cunningham. I'm the Deputy Public Information Officer for the Bureau of Reclamation's Lower Colorado Basin, Interior Region 8, located here in Boulder City. Thank you for the opportunity to share the 90% design for the interpretive signage at Reclamation's Administration Building, Xeria Garden. Our primary purpose tonight is to present the 90% design for the interpretive signage to accompany the recently constructed Xeria Garden at Reclamation's Administration Building. We'll also provide a brief history of the project, a high-level summary of the completed construction, and we'll end with next steps. Reclamation is committed to a durable, long-term, sustainable water conservation. This water-saving project was initiated to replace the original landscaping at the Administration Building and Building 100 in response to requirements of the 2021 Statute of Nevada, Chapter 364, regarding water usage on non-functional lawns. The landscaping was designed to provide approximately 85% vegetative coverage at full plant maturity. The design also included changing the source of irrigation at the 1200 Park Street site from municipal to raw water. During the design phase of the project, which began in April 2022, Reclamation met with the City of Boulder's city planner, city engineer, and the Director of Public Works on more than one occasion to discuss coordination on various topics. During consultation with Nevada SHPO and prior to finalized design, Reclamation also hosted an open house event for the public where we solicited feedback around November 10th, 2022. Reclamation also presented the conceptual design to the Boulder City Historic Preservation Commission during the monthly meeting on December 7th of 2022. In addition to the consultation with the Nevada SHPO, we solicited input from the BC8, the Boulder City HPC, in drafting the memorandum of agreement between BOR and SHPO. The memorandum of agreement was assigned on February 13th of 2023, acknowledging the undertaking to have an adverse effect on the Boulder City Historic District and design landscaping in front of the administrative building. The construction contract was awarded February 17th of 2023. The contract for the Historic American Landscape Survey documentation was awarded January 24th of 2023, and full documentation was completed prior to construction of the contractor mobilizing to the site. And the construction occurred between March of 2023 and June of 2024. Several modifications to the design were made during construction. Final site grades were adjusted to ensure the as-built pathways and sidewalks meet the requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, as amended, and to provide adequate soil cover over the Boulder City Pluton. That's the hard rock formation underlying much of the site. The depth of the soil was necessary to ensure that vegetation can thrive. One of the city's inspectors was present for approvals during construction where improvements were within the city's ROW. And the current status. Although the contractor is no longer on site, there are many outstanding punch list items to be addressed. A significant number of those are associated with the plants. Our work is ongoing on these items. Concurrently, Reclamation is working to close out the construction contract. Reclamation began consultation with the interpretive signage designers during construction. The BOR SHPO memorandum of agreement was used to develop the consultant's scope of work, and the design is now 90% complete. The following slides provide an overview of the interpretive design. Designer's draft, layout, and text information were sent via email on Friday, November 22nd. This slide depicts the overall site plan. The table on the right shows the designer's code or sign type and a description of its content. The code identifies the function of the sign and its location on the site plan. Welcome kiosks consisting of a tall pillar, with a cantilevered panel, are located at the highlighted areas. The mustard color story panels consist of short pillars with a cantilevered panel. The dark blue color depicts special story panels and an inset ground map unique to each location. I'll give you a couple of seconds to view the pictures. And these are more special story panels. And the inset ground map. Teaser signs are a graphic panel mounted to each post. There'll also be plant ID signs. To meet the conditions outlined in the BOR SHPO Memorandum of Agreement, SHPO and Boulder City HPC have 30 days to review and provide comments or reclamation on the interpretive design. We sent a copy of the design package to you with this slide deck on Friday, November 22nd, requesting you provide your comments in a singular consolidated package. After the 30 days, reclamation will review and address the comments received with the design consultants before finalizing the design. Once final design is complete, we'll move to procurement, contract award, and sign installation. We plan for installations to be complete in FY25. Thank you again for this time this evening. We have an email address to be contacted, and I'll also leave a couple of my cards up here.
Thank you. Are you available for questions from us now?
No?
Or is there somebody with,
Well, we can collect questions and respond to them either via email, or if you had a couple of basic questions that were, you can pose a question and think we can address it.
okay, no, that's normally how we conduct business, is if we have questions, we go through our members and ask if there is any questions. There may not be.
Absolutely, my
I
apologies.
just wasn't sure if it was you that was going to be able to answer the questions or some other representative from BOR.
Well, I can defer if I can answer the question.
Gotcha. All right, does anybody have any questions?
I have a question. So you said that you needed 30 feet of dirt to put your plants on. Why was that? Was there not any dirt
Oh,
before the 30 feet?
we didn't say 30 feet of dirt. The stone underneath the ground is why we had to actually put soil to a higher level in order to have vegetation, space for the vegetation to actually grow.
So couldn't vegetation grow? You're saying there's not 30 feet below, like where you started to put the rock? I don't understand why you had to build it. Was there no dirt underneath it? Am I making sense?
I understand your question. I'm just trying to remember the name of the stone again. Let me just,
Because if I remember, there were huge trees there and grass, and they didn't need that 30 feet
Well,
of mound.
most of the ground on there had what's called molestone on there. Let me get you a more specific question. Answer 1 second. Okay. Yeah, there was stone underneath the ground. Again, as far as like where it went from the trees going there and why it needed more on that time, and on more dirt underneath it from what we have there now, I'd have to go back and ask, and we can send the answers back to you.
That'd be great, thank
Sure
you.
thing.
I'll actually ask a question about why you're here, which is the signs.
Sure.
I noticed on your presentation, there's nothing mentioning the railroad. And I'll preface to say I'm a little biased because I'm the director of the Railroad Museum, but the Bureau of Reclamation ran a railroad from here in Boulder City down to the dam site well after the dam was completed for construction. I think you'd want to talk about that and the historic nature of the different things you're proposing. I mean, this is part of talking about what Bureau of Reclamation did and how it supported the community, how it built the community. None of this would be here if it wasn't for the railroad. Not the city, not the dam. It brought everything in. So I'm surprised to see that that was lacking.
And I would like to bring up the question that someone in the audience asked about the water usage compared from a year ago to what it's using now. Is that something you could get back to us with?
Are you referring to?
How much water was used on the park before this development?
Sure thing, we can package that with the response to the question.
Okay.
About what?
About the role of the commission. We can't do anything.
Oh, you're welcome to. Sure.
So I did just want to say for those present in the audience and for some of my fellow commissioners up here, we've had this on the agenda a couple months in a row, and this keeps going on. There is nothing this commission can do. The Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution makes it clear that the federal government and the federal laws dictate what happens on federal land. This was upheld in McCulloch v. Maryland when John Marshall, writing for the court, made it very clear that the federal government can do what it wants on its land, and states and the municipalities chartered by the states have no authority to supersede that. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here, understanding that this commission has no authority to tell the Bureau of Reclamation what to do with their property. We're very happy you're here talking to us and involving the community in what you're doing and obtaining the feedback, but I do want to make sure that everyone in this room today understands legally there is no action this commission can take. None.
Thank you. Anybody else? I had a couple of comments regarding the panels. Do you know if the panels, both their size and the content, as well as their location and their orientation along the pathway, are they available and can they be viewed by everyone, meaning including wheelchair users? And I would also offer perhaps there are opportunities for making some of the panels and the information tactile in order to assist people with low vision or blind people or even children in discovering what your story is that you're trying to tell there. The second question I had is, do you know who the primary audience is for this interpretive story? Is it the public? Is it the community? Is it a certain age group? Is it something that will be changed over time as the landscape changes over time? I don't know if you know that now, or you'll just add that to your list of questions. The other thing I'd like to suggest is to consider using an image of the plan for the xeriscape, an updated plan, not the one that was presented a year ago and has not been followed, but showing how over the course of years, or have the panel discuss over the course of years what the plan is for the landscape, what's expected of the plants growing, is there a timeline involved with what the expectation is for plants to grow, and is there an opportunity for these plants or for this landscaping, is the plan to have them mature And is it supposed to be lush in some way to reduce the heat island effect that is existing there now? Those are some of my questions and comments, along with other comments that I previously provided to the city and was sent on to representatives at Bureau of Rec.
Yes, ma'am. We have those in print, and we'll get answers back to you.
They should be answered to the city and the council, so, or to the commission.
Well, with the responses, rather. But we have the questions down.
Okay, great. That's all I had. Anybody else? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 3 for possible action, discussion regarding activities for Historic Preservation Day and award for 2024.
Good evening, Commission. So in your packet, we have background material showing the history of Historic Preservation Day, the themes that have been identified in prior years, and this is your opportunity to begin conversations, which we will have at the monthly meetings for you to develop the Historic Preservation Day activities for May 2025, and staff can answer any questions you have about the material in the packet.
Anybody want to start on either brainstorming ideas or?
Yeah, I have just a question. So is this the final list of things that are going to be happening?
This is a list of the themes that have been identified by the commission in the past. You will be developing your theme for 2025.
Yeah, I guess I'm talking about the actual schedule of events for kids and parents.
Yes, that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, as a informational piece, we provided last year's flyer for you. So this is kind of to get you to start talking about what you want Historic Preservation Day for 2025 to look like.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, regarding last year's schedule, which I realize, if we're looking for some new things, I'd like to see like to suggest maybe we add something regarding the military history of Boulder City. Certainly the old airport, I guess, was used by the Navy, I understand, in World War II. We also have a lot of individuals who served in the military in World War II, in Vietnam, in the Middle East. We've we've built a veterans cemetery, a veterans home, a veterans park, and I'd like to see some kind of a recognition of the contribution that the city has made to our military history.
One thing I would like to remind people or throw out there is that it's considered Historic Preservation Day, and we're not only supposed to acknowledge our history, but also what are we doing to preserve it. So if there are examples for that day that show how are we preserving that history, whether it's buildings, landscapes, parks, whatever, that needs to be, I think, part of the equation.
Madam Chair. I think one of the things we on this commission observed very closely last year and the city had great success on was the window workshop. Mm-hmm. And I think focusing on the preservation craft is a good possible theme for an upcoming year. because there's a lot of different activities that go into preservation, whether it's on the historic structures within the community, restoration of the artifacts that occur at our various museums in town. There's multiple entities within the community doing preservation work at various scales and sizes. And this is an opportunity not only to share what work is being done with the community, to get that preservation mindset in the community thinking, but perhaps pass on that knowledge, help teach homeowners, particularly within the historic district, some skills that they might be able to take home and use to keep their historic structures in a state that complies with DOA standards and the standards set in the city code for preservation.
I think that's an excellent idea. Are the people who are working on restoring the trains willing to help homeowners know how to restore a train?
That was a great presentation last year.
It was
Yeah,
excellent.
Very interesting. How far are they with preserving that? Close to being done, or?
With the dining car, it rolled out last week. So stop
Exciting.
by the museum, see it.
Are they planning anything like they did last year that we could pair up with?
So I will say with our current project is the Bureau of Reclamation Locomotive Number 2. It's a small switching locomotive. It's currently in the shop undergoing restoration. It's on an accelerated schedule because it has to be ready to go on the Welcome Plaza for the new building we break ground on this week. So that's the current project. It'll roll out probably January.
Okay.
But we have lots of projects going on. So, and I can tell you right now, I'm his boss. He'll do whatever I schedule him to do. So we're always happy to have staff talk about our preservation efforts.
Fantastic.
Anybody else have ideas or
Are you willing to have the
concepts?
historic award presented at the museum again?
We can. I would encourage the commission to look at other venues in town. I'm always happy to have the spotlight, but we've had it 2 years in a row, and I do want to be a nice neighbor and
Sure.
share.
Good job.
But yes, we're
Okay.
willing to host. I do want to remind everybody that we do break ground Friday on the visitor center, and so the museum's going to be a big construction site for the next 15 months.
Piggybacking from the preservation work or somehow making that the theme, how do you go about getting people in the community to participate? And because who would that be? Private entities? Would it be contractors? Who do you know that we could solicit their input on?
Obviously, we have some experts within the community themselves. I'm thinking here museums, National Park Service. I'm sure DOI has individuals you work with, BUREC as well. We have a professional staff that we can certainly reach out to. City has contacts for those that did the workshop, and I'm sure they could do that. I don't want to put you guys on the hook here, but I'll let you speak to that, Michael.
Well, perhaps if this is the theme the commission wants to pursue, it would be geared toward training homeowners on improvements and preservation efforts they could do, simpler things that they could take on. We really promoted the window restoration workshop program, and we ended up getting about 7 contractors that signed up. Now, granted, that was a 3-day activity, so that's kind of hard to make that kind of commitment. But you might have more success if you identify experts that would be willing to show homeowners some things they can do to help preserve their historic properties.
And we might also use this opportunity to educate. I mean, we have the historic guidelines that apply to the historic district. It might just be as simple as sitting down, having a workshop, and talking what those elements are, how they contribute, what's important. Because I don't necessarily think all the public is as well versed in the nuances those of us that sit up here are.
Yeah, this would also be a great time to tie back in the conversations that we had about the real estate, the realtors like outreach to the professionals, and training them in that regard as well.
I'm just writing these down because there's a lot of great ideas. I don't know if we want to like vote on these now, but I guess.
We should brainstorm some
Yeah,
more,
let's
brainstorm more
just.
ideas.
And then maybe
And a theme.
look at these and see if there is a central theme, and maybe think of people that we could involve, locations, and then keep that in mind for the dates that are proposed here. And I was just thinking, is this the timeline just for the award, or that's for the award and the day, the Historic Preservation Day? So,
Try to do, and this will be in your staff report every month, is just try to help frame what needs to get done when, so that we can kind of stay on track with the required activities.
thank you. That's very helpful. Anything else?
I'm sorry I didn't bring a copy of the, it's so much to print out. Is the date actually set? I know it's usually mid-May. I only ask because I know last year there was a conflict with El Dorado Days. And so I'm just curious because I know that makes things difficult for historic-minded people.
Yeah, traditionally, the Historic Preservation Day has always been the second Saturday of May. But certainly, it's up to the commission to decide what day to select.
Is El Dorado Days the 10th of May?
I'd have to look.
Okay. So that's the other thing. Let's go back and compare this timeline, this proposed timeline, and see how it, works with other events in the community or in the area. Is the date that's on here, the 4th of December today, we finalized the award flyer content?
Yes, that's correct. This is due because this was supposed to be done at the last meeting. We were supposed to talk about it. So it's a little bit more maybe aggressive of a front schedule. We weren't able to talk about this at the last meeting in October because we didn't have a quorum. So it would have been more spaced out due to that. But if you guys need additional time, we can change the proposed dates.
Do you,
I think so.
yeah, we definitely need
Absolutely.
time, and there isn't an example of the award flyer. The first award flyer was just like, hey, heads up, Historic Preservation Day is coming. That's the
So
one.
it's just for the award to nominate someone for the award. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's not the actual flyer of the activities for the day.
Okay.
Yeah, so if everyone is comfortable with the format from last year, and commission gives us direction tonight, we will just move forward with that same format regarding the award nomination process.
Which is page, it's hard to read.
It's page 80.
Okay. So you would use like a different image?
Yeah,
like
I could
last
use
year's?
last year's winner and just update all of the content to match
Okay.
for this year.
Would you, okay. In the past, we've gotten a draft and we've had a look at it and then just said yes or no. And I mean, you can either, in the past also, it was just sent to me, but if, it's up to you guys how you want to deal with that.
Yeah, since the proposed deadline is for the 15th, for us to get it into the utility mailer, I can work on that and I can send it out to the commission. And you guys can give me any feedback you want. We can finalize it and then I can get that ready for the 15th.
In addition to finalizing the flyer, do you also update the website, the city's website?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Including the nomination form and the whole process. Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so we have our homework till our next meeting. Thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item number 4. Action requested that the commission consider the proposed meeting calendar for 2025 and make a motion.
So, Madam Chair, with the proposed calendar was in your packet for 2025, you'll note that traditionally, the commission has not met in December. And so with the November meeting being close to Thanksgiving, one of the options that the commission could pursue, just like this year, is you could vacate, or not vacate, you could change the schedule, not meet in November, and instead propose the first Wednesday of December. And then that will be the schedule.
That sounds good to me. What do you guys think?
I like that.
Yes.
Perfect.
All right, so we'll need a motion to modify what was submitted in the packet, removing the November meeting date and instead putting in the first Wednesday of December.
Does anyone want to make that motion? Or I will make the motion to not have a historic preservation meeting in November, but instead have the meeting the first week of December, that first Wednesday of December.
And to follow everything else that's represented in the staff report?
And to follow everything else in the staff report, including the other meetings that are scheduled for 2025.
I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item number 5, update on implementation of the commission's goals and priorities.
So as we do every month, we share the commission's goals as reflected in the summary with the matrix with attachment 1. These are the goals that the commission identified and the goals that were adopted by the city council as part of the adopted historic preservation plan. Any updates are noted in bold, and we can answer any questions.
Anybody have anything? Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 6, discussion or update on the status of properties within the historic district or other potentially eligible properties.
This is also a regular agenda item that we provide as an update of activities within the district or other historically significant properties. Just wanted to note that per the commission's request, we included from the Public Works Department a detailed update on the historic water filtration plant stabilization project. We also provided information on the historic district signage and banners, and the mailer that went out to all the properties within the historic district. As you recall, one of the objectives of the commission was to do additional communication to property owners within the historic district to let them know about the resources available to them, not only the grants, but the website that can provide them information on their properties, and to remind them that the city has resources through our historic preservation consultant to help them with preservation efforts with their properties.
I had a comment about the banners that are attached to the light poles. The coloring is really light, and the wording, I believe it says, it's hard to read, Boulder City, is really difficult to read, and I was wondering if there's a opportunity to change those out or come up with something better, or do you have to wait till those deteriorate over the next 2 years?
Well, the wayfinding study and the recommendations that were contained in that, that was presented previously to the commission, based on those recommendations, the city council within the last fiscal year approved funding for these banners and the other wayfinding signage. I can certainly ask the Public Works Department if they can talk to the manufacturer about how the text is fading with the banners, but we would have to budget additional funds to replace them.
I don't know if they're fading, I just think they were originally designed that way, and I don't recall seeing the design before they went out for manufacture, but anyway, maybe it's just me, I can't see them as I'm driving the speed limit in Boulder City, and they're pretty high up and they're very tiny, so anyway, just a comment.
I just want to say really quick thank you to the Public Works Department. They've been doing a good job doing updates on the water filtration, so I appreciate that from them.
That was, speaking of the water filtration plan, is that maybe this is for the next agenda item, and that is, could we get more details of what has occurred there with some images to share with us as well as the public?
Well, we did provide a detailed summary of the progress to date. The project will be completed by February. I can certainly ask Public Works if there's any images that we can share at this point, but certainly by January we'll be much more further along in the restoration process so that we could include images as part of the update to this regular agenda item.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 7, commission discussion regarding potential agenda items for upcoming Historic Preservation Commission meetings. So one of the topics to perhaps add is, speaking of the water filtration plant, is the wrapping up of that project, and does the city have any plans for showing it off, doing some kind of a ceremony, ribbon cutting, show off of what they've done? And can the Historic Preservation Commission be part of that process or event?
Absolutely. No plans yet, but certainly we could have as an agenda item what that might look like.
And do you know if the interpretive sign that's on the front of that building, is that going to be changed out or updated or fixed? It's in really poor shape. And is that something we, the commission, can talk about at the next meeting?
What I can do is ask the Public Works Department about the opportunity for replacement.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments? All right. Thank you. All right. All right, we now come to the final comment period for the evening. Each person has up to 3 minutes to speak on any topic. The public may call 702-589-9629 to provide comments. If there's anyone here in the audience that wishes to speak, please again come to the podium and state your name for the record. Thank you.
Hi, it's me again, Norma Valley, Commission, staff, city staff. I recognize this has to do with the BOC, and not to beat a dead horse, a big, dead, dry, hot, ugly horse. But the idea that it is federal land, this is true. We are neighbors, and like the Bible says, love thy neighbor, and we want to love each other, and we want to have a symbiotic, happy relationship, of course. I would ask that the Bureau of Reclamation recognize that when they entered into a relationship here with us and showed plans, that put them in a point of an obligation. Now, is it ethical? Is it legal? Maybe, I don't know, maybe that can be argued. But when plans were presented, it led the public to believe something to be true. And people's lives have been affected by that. You know, maybe if somebody were going to be buying a house and they said, well, gosh, that's going to be beautiful. I'm going to buy that house now because what they're proposing, even though they're taking away all of the trees and all of the beauty and the history of this part of our city, I'm going to buy that house anyway. And then, boom, that's what they got, something that is not at all attractive. So I do want to recognize that, yes, it is federal land. They can do whatever they want. They have no obligation to us. But as I said, once those plans were presented to us, it has crossed over into some level of obligation to the citizens of Boulder City, because I feel that we've been misled. And I urge that this council, at whatever capacity, our city council, our citizens, and the Bureau of Reclamation can figure out a way for us to all be happy here and not feel such loss and such desperation as to what this change, this garden, has actually brought our city, which is a lot of unhappiness. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello again. Brandon Smith. Vernon, Doug, look, all I have to say is I've got a petition with almost 600 signatures of it.
Can you speak into the microphone?
I've got a petition of almost 600 signatures. During our one meeting, Vernon, I asked you how many signatures it would take to make a difference. You never answered me. I've spent months collecting opinions, even with people who wouldn't sign the petition, didn't want to sign the petition, but nobody's been in favor at all, in favor of this outcome. You haven't lived up to a single, for lack of better description, what Norma says, like, I mean, you did present something in 2022. It was in your own presentation. That's what the city was expecting. That's not what you delivered under any circumstance. You've been given opportunity after opportunity to try and give us a good reason why you can't at least try and fix it. You guys should be embarrassed for what you've given us. You've assassinated the character of the town. You just don't seem to care to want to do anything about it. And the problem I have is we as Boulder City citizens have to live by a certain set of rules and standards set forth by this committee. And then you guys get to do whatever you want, but we can't. It's do what we say, not what we do, and it's just not fair. In your interpretive signage anywhere, is there a sign that says, hey, sit on this bench for 5 seconds and you're going to get a 3rd-degree burn? Is there a sign that's going to say, look, if you're elderly or have a heart condition or are particularly susceptible to high heat, don't come into this park because you're going to die from the heat that's being emanated from these rocks or this cement. It's just plainly despicable what you guys have done. And if you expect us to believe that you spent $4.5 million plus on that monstrosity, it's really hard to believe. Now, trees and grass grew for 100 years as it was, and yet somehow you guys seem to want us to believe that it takes 30 feet of ground rock and bus-sized boulders to grow a plant that's 2 feet high. It's nothing that you've said is believable, and it's time that you kind of like take it like a federal agency and say, look, okay, we screwed up. Let's try and fix this. Let's not ostracize the entire city over a few dollars that we wasted anyway to begin with. It's just not fair. And I'm personally, whether the city can hold you responsible or not, I'm going to try. Because I don't think what you guys have done has done the city any service. I don't think you've helped anybody. Maybe you've saved a couple million gallons of water, but at what expense? I've got to pay for it. I've got to pay for it for the next 100 years while my electricity bill is now 50% higher than it was. And so do all the rest of the people on that loop. Okay, great, so you've saved some water. And you will not hear me argue that the idea of saving water is a bad idea. We live in the middle of the desert, I get it. But the way you've gone about it, completely wrong. You presented renderings, only the renderings that you presented, they're even in your packet tonight, from 2022, and you never updated those renderings. You never said, oh, by the way, this is not going to look anything like this because let's get the city involved and come to some sort of compromise that everybody can live with. Because what you gave us, we can't. And I'm not going to. And if I have to put signage outside my own house that shows the names responsible for that mess and a big arrow pointing across the street, I'm going to do it. Because it's just not fair. You guys have really made a mess of downtown. And everybody talks about it all day long. And it's just a waste of energy. Because if the government can get away with it and do nothing and not care, then why do we pay you guys a salary? Why do we pay taxes for you to do this to us? It's not fair.
Thank you, Brandon.
Madam Chair, we do have somebody on the phone.
Okay, go ahead.
Public comment, go ahead.
Thank you. Again, for the record, Fred Volz. Claiming there is nothing to be done about the disaster the Bureau of Reclamation has created in its poorly executed re-landscape plan ignores the stark fact that the Bureau lives in our community. The Bureau needs to respond to the wishes of our residents, expressed in a petition signed by 600 residents. True public servants are not omnipotent bureaucrats who do and spend as they please. We in the public pay the salaries of each and every public employee through taxes. Government at all levels too often forgets this inconvenient truth. With the Bureau's landscape problem transcending several meetings of this commission, it should be abundantly clear that there is indeed a problem that has not been satisfactorily resolved by Bureau employees and contractors. What this commission can do is pass a resolution expressing the concerns of Boulder City's residents and asking for a timeline on remediation of the landscape problems, not accepting excuses, cover-ups, and vague promises of future action. It would be prudent to add this resolution to your next agenda, one that respects our history but reflects current realities of climate conditions and water availability. And again, I would ask that my comments be added to the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Michelle Carroll again. Actually, Brandon stole my line because I was going to ask too, did one of those signs were they going to say, don't sit here because otherwise you're going to burn your butt? Because it is just so radically hot. And you just go across the street to the park and you can audibly feel the difference. Sir, and thank you, I appreciate that the commission can't physically do anything. Unfortunately, this has been one of the only vehicles that we have had to make our voices known. So even though we understand, although at the end of the day, and I really wish government at all levels would understand that you work for us, not the other way around, sometimes we have to use the vehicles that we're given, and so we appreciate you letting us come here and make our voices heard. We've had so many actually new sign-ups for the petition. We've actually gone over 600 as of today. If anybody else would like to sign the petition, it's fixborbc.com. It's truly tragic, but at the end of the day, all levels of government, it doesn't matter if it's federal, local, it might have been a federal mandate. However, it's our lives that you've affected, not just the people that live across the street, but the entire community. Again, our biggest festivals are held there. It is the pinnacle. That building is the pinnacle of our town. It's not just a building. This is the Historic Commission, which preserves all of the sanctity of our history. And even though I've only been here for just about 3 years, that's what I fell in love with first, was the history of this town and the dam. And so even though you might not have the authority to do anything, you are still the representatives and the way for us to channel our voice. The other way is that petition. So for anybody else, like I said, the more ways we can find the way for us as just plain old average citizens to be heard, we are going to make the most of it. So that's why we did it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else on the phone? Anybody else in the audience? Okay. Well, thank you all for your comments this evening. With that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you. I wanted to say they need to go to their